All right, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating and honestly pretty provocative critique of AI. The big idea is that the public chatbots we all use, they aren't just pieces of tech. They're actually a mirror, reflecting humanity itself. So what happens when that reflection is being messed with?
This quote really gets to the heart of it. It kicks things off with this powerful metaphor, that an AI chatbot is the human in the mirror. It suggests that it's not just mirroring our collective knowledge, but also our biases, our divisions, and maybe even our fears. And that right there, that's the crucial question this critique makes us ask. I mean, if AI is our mirror, what happens when powerful forces start to smudge the glass? Or worse, what if they start bending it to show us the reflection they want us to see?
So here's the argument. This AI mirror isn't showing us some kind of objective truth. Not at all. Instead, it's reflecting a society that the author believes is fearful, kind of resistant to progress, and has been shaped for decades by some very specific, very powerful influences. And what's really key here is that this isn't some brand new problem that just popped up with AI. Instead, the argument is that AI is just the final stop on a long road. The reflection that we're seeing today has been slowly but surely getting distorted by consumer culture for a very long time.
To really get why this mirror is so flawed, we actually have to go back in time, like 75 years back. The critique argues that the origin story of this whole distorted reflection, well, it doesn't start with silicon chips. It starts with the golden age of advertising.
So you can really see how the argument builds on this timeline. It all kicks off in the 1950s with TV advertising and that whole keeping up with the Joneses idea, right? This one single vision of success based on what you own. The source claims that for more than 75 years, this model has just been fueling division. And now AI shows up and acts like a massive amplifier for this whole dynamic.
Okay, so this sets up the core conflict, which the author frames as the Joneses versus the Smiths. The Joneses, they represent the ideal that advertisers have been pushing for decades, focused on consumerism, on bright, shiny objects. And the Smiths, well, that's a metaphor for pretty much everyone else, any other cultural, ethnic, or political view that doesn't quite fit that narrow mold. The argument is that advertising has spent decades telling all of us that the Joneses are just better.
Right, so that's the history. But how exactly does AI take this 75-year-old advertising model and just crank it up to 11? This is where the modern tech becomes this incredibly powerful tool for amplifying that old influence in a completely new way.
Okay, this is a really crucial point. We tend to think that an AI is just predicting the most probable next word, but the source material argues it's way more complex than that. It works on something called a preferred weight of consensus. It's less about pure prediction and more about, well, a nudge toward a desired outcome, a consensus that can absolutely be influenced from the outside.
And here's the breakdown of how that influence actually works. You've got big tech companies selling incredibly detailed profiles about us. Then advertisers grab those profiles to target us with very specific preferred words, language that's designed to push their viewpoint. And when we engage with that stuff, our response data gets fed right back into the system, basically force-feeding the AI's learning process and telling it which ideas are the popular ones.
So what all this creates is something the author calls a manipulation feedback loop. And it's powerful. Let's really break down how this cycle is supposed to work, because it's allegedly reshaping the AI from the inside out.
First, we got to get our heads around a key technical term, backpropagation. To put it simply, this is how an AI learns. When you react to something it puts out, you click, you like, you keep the chat going, that information flows backward into the system, and it literally causes the AI to address its own internal wiring. It is learning directly from how you engage with it.
Okay, so let's put it all together. Here's that whole feedback loop, step by step. First, you've got the outer loop. Advertisers target you with those preferred words. Step 2, you respond to that content. Step 3 is the inner loop. Your response gets fed straight back into the AI through backpropagation. And finally, step 4, the end game. The AI's core programming, its very structure, is altered to favor the advertiser's point of view. It's not just a mirror anymore. It's a mirror that's been physically reshaped.
And the author really wants to hammer this home. This isn't just some vague idea. They're saying the math, the mechanics of this whole process, it screams out of well-established science, out of feedback control theory. It's predictable.
Okay, so if that's the problem, this crazy feedback loop, is there a way out? Is there a fix? Well, the critique doesn't just diagnose the issue. It actually proposes a solution, and it's called a safety valve. Basically, the idea is to build a sort of filter,
a mechanism that can monitor and restrict all that manipulative data from advertisers and other pressure groups from constantly feeding back into the AI. By doing that, you could, in theory, normalize the system and stop the reflection in the mirror from getting constantly warped.
And the end goal here, it's all about stability. The argument is that an AI's foundational knowledge shouldn't be for sale. It shouldn't be a battlefield that's constantly being rewritten by whoever pays the most. It should be as solid, as reliable as the print on a dictionary's page. I mean, that's a powerful image, right?
And all of this, it leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. If AI truly is our mirror, and if that mirror is being deliberately smudged and distorted by some very powerful interests, then who's responsible for wiping it clean? Who gets to decide what a clear, true reflection even looks like? Now that's the challenge this whole critique leaves us with.